Welcome back to Tech Talk. I'm Greg Schaefer. I've been in technology now for 35 years, and it's often very hard to keep up with technology, even as a practitioner in the field. But for those who are not practitioners, who technology is not their main business, but they need it to run their business and their personal lives, it can get to be overwhelming with trying to keep up with these new trends in technology. Sometimes it feels like I understand about you just don't know where to start. You feel like you're drowning in all this information. Well, here to help us unpack these things is Wil Klusovsky. He has been on our show before. He's an information security and technology expert. Will, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Greg, great to be here. Excited to have a nice little conversation about emerging tech.
Yes, and it is really a very like I won't say Wild West field, but it's amazing. If you just look over the past 5 or 6 years, the things that have come out, and just in the last two, so many of us are really engaged with using generative AI. I don't know what I did before ChatGPT. It certainly made my life a little bit easier, but in the beginning, it was a little bit overwhelming, and we don't want to just uh, adopt a technology just because it's there. We definitely want to make sure that it's something that can help our business. So, how can a business leader, business owner identify which technologies are worth actually pursuing and which one should they or would not be worth pursuing to invest in their business?
Yeah, I think there's two aspects of that. One, there is on your sort of client side of the house, whatever your business is, who you're delivering services, technology, whatnot to. A lot of times that will dictate the kind of technology that you need to support, right? So if you take a look at your client base, where the majority of your revenue is coming from, what types of technology they're expecting you to have, what types of stuff competitors maybe have that are really kind of table stakes. That will kind of lay out to you that, hey, this may be worth investing in and taking a look at. On the other side is internal to the business itself, which is, I like to say, you need to make sure you're going to actually get a return on that. If I'm going to spend money on this technology, what do I get in return? Often that comes in efficiencies, meaning I don't have to hire as many people in case of using generative AI or creating AI bots, or I don't have to skill this resource in this area that we only use partially. So, or I can automate out some of the lower level tasks and then bring on more of the smarter people, right? So that's kind of the two aspects I look at when you're saying, well, do I need to buy this or not?
So certainly, for a business like mine, which is a consulting business like you as well, one of the things that we do is that we share information with our clients. We need to share it securely. So certainly, looking at some sort of a technology that enables us to do that both securely and as with as little friction as possible would be one way. But is there like a standard template that a business can or a checklist that they can really start to run down and say, or a source of where they can go to? These are the types of technologies that I might want to look at. These are the ones that we don't want to look at because I know that you can make mistakes when you're choosing technology, and you don't want to make those mistakes. You want to avoid them.
Man, I wish there was the catch-all checklist. I think that depends on the industry you're working in, right? I think at the end of the day, for me, one of the most valuable things to think about is why are you looking at that technology? What
Mhm.
are the gaps in your business that actually exist that you're trying to fix or remediate? A lot of times, the salesperson comes in with a really great pitch, and they've got a new shiny object that does a lot of really cool things, and that's very exciting. But ignoring that step of going back and looking at your business and saying, well, what is it we do here? And what do we need to do better? And what do we not do well? And does this tool actually help that, right? So it kind of goes back to some of the things we talked about earlier, which is, why do I need this? What's it going to solve? And then making sure that you actually evaluate that criteria and not just be like, we get blown away right away with the brand new shiny car and all the cool stuff that it does and has for us. But understanding what you're actually going to use and get your value from, I think that's the key part. And that checklist should be as a business, you should have that, right? You should know what you do. What are the key things you're supposed to deliver? What are the expectations of you? What are your own personal targets and goals you've set for? And is that technology going to help make that better?
So in information security, I deal with risk all the time, and I sometimes like to put things into like risk little buckets.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking here, you're really just talking about doing a risk assessment about a technology. It's like, what are the risks if I do use this technology? What are the risks if I don't use this technology? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's about that same thing. I mean, it's something I like to say from an asset standpoint, understanding what you actually have and what you do, and then knowing how well where you need to invest in, right? If it's a business process that only nets you a couple bucks a month, maybe improving that's not worth it. Take a look at the one that's actually netting you hundreds or thousands of dollars in revenue a day, and then invest in making that one better, right?
Well, this is kind of, I won't say nebulous, but it's definitely, it sounds very theoretical. But can you give like an example of two of real world situation where a company has used emerging technology to successfully grow?
Sure. Yeah, a firm I worked with, actually, kind of one of the examples we talked about. So, looking at a security operations center, this is something we actually see pretty commonly in the industry. But having, there are different skill levels of resources that are required to deliver that service, and the majority of the work, the sort of grinding, keyboard punching, digging through, sorting through the mess, is that level one when things first start to come in. We're able to implement some hyper automation tooling, which leveraged AI, machine learning, and essentially reduced all of that effort down so that instead of having to hire X amount of people to do this work, we have this technology in place now, which is going to facilitate, removing a lot of the noise and then focus some of the work on those fewer resources, which again means we can scale and service more we can scale and service more clients. We can deliver service faster, better, without needing to hire more people, and thus don't have to increase pricing, right?
So you can almost like look at, well, we know that the technology is going to cost X dollars, but we can see that we're going to save this amount of money both on not having to hire others and also becoming more efficient in using that technology. And in the end, that makes us more productive. And even though we're outlaying a little bit more money, we're actually going to be saving and earning more in the end, is from what I'm hearing.
Right. It's kind of standard business case 101 that I think a lot of us, especially when it comes to things like emerging technology, and those of us who get really excited about it and we're like, "Ooh, this is neat, let's try this." A lot of us do forget to stop and do that business assessment. Like, okay, what is this going to cost me? What am I going to get in return, quantifiably in numbers? How long is that going to take? And then, if you're the owner of business, then you can kind of make those assessments pretty quickly. If you're someone looking at that new technology, that's a single PowerPoint slide you have to put together that says, hey, here's what the plan looks, here's the money we're spending now, here's what we're going to net later, and how long it's going to take, and make a clear case for that benefit.
You mentioned something about the working with sales folks before, and I know that sometimes it gets to be a little bit difficult, having been on that side of the equation as well too. I'm going back to my networking days when I was a network engineer, and of course I was learning more in the field, but I'd have salespeople coming in saying that this thing could do all these wonderful things, and I didn't really understand what those wonderful things were and how they could help me in my job and how they can help me with my business. So, what is something that salespeople can do a little bit effectively? I don't want to say more effectively, but certainly be effective in conveying that because you're selling not to a firm, you're selling to a person at this point in time. So you want
Always.
to make that connection.
Yeah, you're always selling to a person. I think that's the number one thing everybody should remember. In that case, I think a lot of it goes into that organization's go-to-market strategy, specifically with that sales enablement. We tend to ask a lot of our salespeople and don't always give them the knowledge and information they need. So the number one way to make that happen is to be able to have someone on your staff or work with somebody who can translate those technological, all the ones and zeros, the beeps and boops into sales information that can be useful, that is useful to the end client, to you. You're looking to buy that. Hey, what is this? How is this going to help me? What are the benefits? What are the keys? And then it's educating the salespeople on being able to understand that and communicate it. Say, as a result of consuming our services, buying our product, this is what it's going to help you do, Mr. or Mrs. Whoever. This is the benefit you're going to get at the end of the day. And when you talk to people in their, you know, as a person in their languages, in their language, so that they understand that, it's going to come across a lot better. You're going to have more regular conversations instead of having these sort of forced robotic ones about, well, here's the ROI on this and here's the client, you know, we compare to these people and blah, blah, blah. Because at the end of the day, you're probably, a salesperson is probably selling to somebody who's more technologically inclined than they are. They may just not know about their product. So you really need to speak to them and their benefits, you know, their KPIs, their metrics, understanding how they get incented. If you're a salesperson and you can help a person hit their goals, get promoted, get a pay raise, get their team praised, anything like that, you're gonna have a really good career.
Well, you've got a really good sense of all of this and how to help folks. How can they get a hold of you if they wanted to talk a little bit further?
Sure. My main point of contact is wilklu.me, WILKLU.me. That's the website. There's an outreach form there. I'm also very active on LinkedIn. You can look me up there as well. And I also have a podcast. So if you wanted to come and listen to me rant about cybersecurity business, that's the Keyboard Samurai on most of your platforms there.
Great. Well, thank you for helping us unpack a bit here as far as how to make sense with emerging technology. Appreciate your wonderful words of wisdom.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
And we'll be right back.